With inspiration, liberation, and determination, you can reach any destination. I request our chief guest for the event, Mr. N.V. Satyanarayana, co-founder, chairman, and managing director, Informatics India Private Limited, Bangalore, to address the gathering. Please, sir.
Dr. Ishwar Iyer, the dean of this campus, my friends Dr. Ramesha and Krishnamurthy, Dr. Meeramani, and all my friends here whom I keep seeing all the time, we keep meeting, and the librarians from various universities and colleges. At the outset, let me thank the organizers of this event. It's a pleasure and honor to be here, giving you the last address. I would also like to thank, rather congratulate, the university. You know, this university ranked 21st position in the India Today survey. And it is only 4-year-old. That's amazing. And it shows the commitment of the university management for the building excellence, which is so much required today. I would also like to congratulate Dr. Iyer, the dean of this campus. I didn't realize it's an eye-opener to me. I have been in this area for such a long time, and right in the heart of the city, you have a college of commerce and management, which is preparing students, 8,000 plus students, which is a very massive campus, right in the heart of the city. It's really amazing. Perhaps you are the largest commerce and management PU program, where a composite one both from undergraduate to postgraduate. So I also thank you for supporting and giving lead to your librarian for organizing this national event, which is so important these days. Dr. Ramesha gave you a good summary of what has happened. Normally the valedictory address is nothing but summation of what all happened during the 2 days. The person who has not attended the lecture, the program, all through the day is really not the right person to deliver the valedictory. I guess Ramesha's address itself is more than a valedictory address. And having gone through your report, where all the eminent people like Kemparaj and everybody have spoken extensively, Ravi, all our good old friends have spoken, they know a lot more than me. And they have been watching trends, global trends all the time. I'm sure in the last 2 days, you have been bombarded with lots of new knowledge about the trends, the current trends and the emerging trends and whatnot. So as you said, it must have been both mind-mining and mouth-watering conference for all of you. So I really need not have to tell you any new trends at all. Dr. Talwar must have spoken to you, as you said, about the trend that he must have started with the OCLC report. OCLC comes out every year with very interesting perception report. And so much so IFLA and ALA and all these agencies. So today the availability of knowledge is so easy and so fast. And I guess some of you must have already known quite a bit and lot more even before coming to this conference. So what is there for me to say anything more at all? I've been thinking. And you know, the university campuses, as much the library, are being impacted by technology beyond our imagination. In fact, our children can imagine better than we. As they use more technology and more easily than we people play with the technology today. And when I have to tell you anything about technology related trends, I would only simply say one thing. Perhaps you need to look at, when you talk about it, you need to know about technology, you need to adapt technology, practice, because they provide great value to your user. But you also need to look at what I would say, device neutral digital devices. What I mean device neutral digital devices, at the end of the day, the technology is creating so many diverse channels for information delivery. Somebody uses mobile, somebody uses laptop, somebody uses his tablet, somebody uses desktop, somebody happily uses his home TV also for information delivery. Now, your website, wherever your website is hosted, the screen of your website or the screen of any web page of any e-resource that you deliver to your user should be able to fit into any screen size the user will have to use. So which means any service, whether you provide from the library or you really license from a lot of publishers and vendors, today you have to first ensure whether the service we provide to our user can reach out to all kinds of devices. So in effect, you will have to make your service a kind of a technology agnostic. To make the service delivery technology agnostic, you will have to know a lot more about the technology. That's really the challenge. Now just imagine how you are OPAC. OPAC is a central resource, I would say, a very major resource for all libraries. Now, can your user interact with your OPAC from his mobile device to reserve a book, to find a book that he wants? And technologies are available today, and making that happen is the real challenge for you in your library. So there are lots of technology tools available for you to reach out to the user. I will not really focus much on this, but you have learned, picked up a lot of ideas, you go back, you really need to make things happen. You know, there is a very nice saying about committees and conferences. These committees and conferences are always gathering of important people. It's a gathering of important people who singly can do nothing, but together can decide that nothing can be done. A lot of time when you go back, you get into nothing can be done kind of a situation. Because of various natural and artificial both situations that you will have to be countering, overcoming, where you feel excited when you attend a conference. When you go back, you carry that excitement. How do you translate that excitement, the new knowledge you have acquired, to reach out to your user as a benefit to them? As Professor Talwar said, you mentioned, at the end of the day, user satisfaction is the most important thing. How do you make that happen? That is the challenge, and where is the solution for it? And one important thing that I would look at is the library in an academic and research environment is a major part of this whole academic and research ecosystem. It is a major part. And in fact, there is a lot of positive feelings about libraries in the library management. It is recognized. Now, how do you convert the positive feelings the managements have into your advantage and translate a lot of learning that you gain, knowledge that you gain, to benefits that can reach the user? That is the challenge. Now, this requires a very strong collaborative approach. What I see in my experience in the campuses, the libraries, while today they are much more integral with the learning ecosystem. There was a day, look at the pre-internet and pre-digital era. Library was a beautiful brick and mortar edifice, and to that extent it was more isolated. Today you can't be isolated at all. It can be more community centric, lot more community centric than what it was possible earlier. Now that is possible through collaboration. First, when I look at collaboration, let us look at collaboration among libraries itself. We talked about the scale today. This college has 8,000 students. But if you look at the Indian education system in higher education, unlike higher education in most other countries, the whole college models and the library models are not a very economically viable model. Fortunately, things are changing. Like an American university campus would have some 50,000 to 75,000 students. They have undergraduate to research program. Now here it's very different. Bangalore University must be having about 5,000 students. And they have some, how many colleges you have affiliated? 600 to 700 colleges affiliated. And each college is a library which is mandatory and required. And each college has a small strength of students. And your college is perhaps an exceptional example. Most colleges may have anywhere from 500 to 2,000 students. The average number of student population in Indian higher education college is around 600 to 700. Now, with 600 to 700 students, or even 1,000 students, and most of them in private sector, and even the government also doesn't have much money to allocate. And when it comes to library, it will be still less. Although we are talking today about Digital India and Digital Library and National Mission on Libraries and all that, when it comes to funding, there will be a lot of challenges and limitations. So this viability, all small colleges, small libraries, and you have to provide access to everything in the world. How do you make it happen? And in fact, if you look at it, collaboration, cooperation is very natural to libraries. Libraries have been historically very collaborative in their moods and talks. Very historically, the typical interlibrary lending. Any library in the world, today the situation is, today the system, the way it has developed, what Dr. Talwar was mentioning about OCLC, through that system, any library anywhere in the world can lend to any other library. Which means the libraries work on a universal philosophy, a philosophy of what I would say, universal access to knowledge. Perhaps this philosophy, this kind of philosophy, universal access to knowledge, is something practiced not today, even before the digital world. Now that is possible because of this collaboration. Now look at the reality here. Are the colleges under Bangalore University, or the colleges in Mysore University, 600, 400, 300, 200, are they really collaborating at all? Thanks to InflibNet, there is some level of collaborative model across the universities. Even that collaborative model is limited only to providing access to e-resources provided by InflibNet. And To some extent, we have a service through which all of you and Gopakumar knows and Ravi knows. They share the resources at the journals level, but at the books level, in the Knowledge Commission of Karnataka, the Vice Chancellor, there was a Vice Chancellor Summit. Now, all Vice Chancellors asked one question when the issue of library came up. Why can't a student of my university, a faculty of my university, go and borrow a book in another university? So, they know that the number of books that the Indian university libraries and college libraries have is very limited. Imagine a university like Stanford University. They buy about 60 to 70,000 books a year. Now, how many Bangalore University Library buys, sir, in a year? About 3 to 5,000 books. You come down to the college, it obviously is much less. So, we have the philosophy of providing universal access to knowledge, but we are not able to bring it into practice. It is possible, like the rest of the world has done, and today in the digital world it is a lot more easier and possible. Collaborate. And when you talk about collaboration, a lot of time the collaboration is, it's a nuts and bolts issues. When you want to collaborate to share resources, you first have to have an infrastructure, a simple infrastructure. All of you will have to have a common OPAC. The library catalogs of 600 libraries in Bangalore University affiliated colleges, and the Bangalore University's library catalog, what you call OPAC, should be able to be merged and talk to each other, exchange. Then only the users will be able to use it. And it is also a responsibility for Bangalore University to provide this facility to its own colleges, because they are your affiliated colleges. A substantial budget of the university, if not substantial, significant budget of the university comes from these colleges. It is also a responsibility. So, the librarians will have to take it as a serious management issue. I'm sure Kemparaj here, who is in much better position today as a part of a very senior management of the university, should be able to drive, and he can drive, but the librarians at every level will have to get together and collaborate. So this collaboration among librarians, what I would say the nuts and bolts level, building clean and opaque, and why not all the people in Bangalore University affiliated colleges work on a common platform for shared access to resources. In fact, Anand was showing me on platform building. Some new kind of challenges that we need to take up. So here when you talk about resource sharing, in the e-environment, the publishers will not even let you share resources easily. In the print environment, it is possible at least. Independent of sharing resources, most important is for our users to know what content is available where. That requires pooling the resources and sharing. And more importantly, when you talk about resource sharing, it has to be much more than interlibrary lending or article sharing. It has to be working more at things like joint library automation. Libraries have done it. They are doing it. Like, I was reading about Illinois Heartland Library System. 400 plus libraries. All of them have one single library automation system, common one. It helps a lot. Using a common technology platform helps a lot and it avoids all your problem of interoperability, data exchange problem and whatnot. So in fact it's happening for universities like Jain University, I think you must be having multiple colleges and multiple centers. This is another great advantage. I have an example of Symbiosis has about some 30 libraries. They have a management group of about 27 colleges. All the libraries, management schools, their engineering schools, all of them are on a common shared library cataloging platform. And you can extend it to shared discovery service, shared repositories. All these are possible at the library level, the library profession level. And this is being talked about, but I do see a big gap between the intent and the practice. In fact, intent is very strong among librarians. Practice is somewhere faltering. This is something you have to address it. A message that you have to take back is, how do you translate your intent into practice? Through a serious collaborative model. And in fact, these collaborative models will reduce your costs, enhance the access to resources, and the benefits are more visible. Now, the library cooperation has been talked about a lot. Let us look at it at a much higher level, another level. The library is part of a higher education ecosystem when we talk about academic and research libraries. No, it is not just a library which is under threat today. The whole education system is under threat of significant change, very disruptive change. In fact, no less a person than Bill Gates said, 50 years from now, you would not see big university campuses. The campuses are already going virtual. Learning is going virtual. So, here, in this situation, the collaboration will have to be extended for the libraries to another level, what I would call a deep collaboration. This collaboration will have to be, what I would say, across a wider spectrum of higher education. Now, when I say this, as things are changing a lot, your roles have to change, as all of us know. Now, there is a lot of talk about repositioning. How do you really become an integral part of the campus? How do you become an integral part of the campus teaching and learning system? An embedded part. You must have heard about embedded librarian practice, etc. And there are a few areas where the libraries have now great opportunities to take, not just few areas, several areas I would say, take steps forward. A few I can list. You must have heard about, in terms of trend, big data and e-science. Libraries don't carry too big data. Don't worry about big data, because big data start from exabytes. Google processes something like 4 petabytes an hour, 3 to 4 petabytes an hour. The entire Library of Congress put together, the entire content of Library of Congress, digitized, including their web archive, doesn't even cross 1 petabyte. So, the libraries are, I wouldn't put libraries in the category of big data, which is a very big hype. Let's not get lost in that part of the hype and technology. When I talk about big data and e-science, there's another aspect on the data science. Now, if you look at in many of the higher education and research institutions, the faculty, for them, the major research, their major education research output, one of the major is research papers. Research and research papers and research reports, whatever. A lot of data is generated. Scientists research, do a lot of experiments, they generate huge amount of data, and every department does it, particularly in life sciences and chemical sciences. Social sciences are not left behind. And they publish paper, the data is lost forever. Nobody bothers about the data. And if any verification is required, it's a big problem. These days, in fact, some of the research journal publishers are expecting and demanding that the availability of whatever data they used should be available for verification. They even asked them to make it available. Now, I can use data and information in an interchangeable manner when we talk about information. Now, libraries have been in the forefront of, harvesting, collecting, curating, managing information. It's a well-established practice. But across the campuses in several departments, a lot of information is generated in the form of data. Huge. It's a totally untouched area, and it's suddenly gaining importance. And the people who generate data don't know how to manage it. In some areas they know how to manage it, like in bioinformatics. In fact, that is another area of collaboration where new skill sets in specialized areas are emerging. They do the similar work like the librarians do. Now, here, developing a unified digital library for both data and literature is very, very important. A lot of literature, a lot of articles published in journals and whatever is a product, carry a lot of this data. In fact, this will require almost most of these data scientists develop their own vocabulary, their own classification system, their own ontology. Now it will be a very exciting and interesting challenge for a university campus to develop what I call a shared vocabulary and ontology. The classification system that the library schools teach, right? In biosciences area or in plants area, somebody who is maintaining all these herbariums, library and all that, they will not have gone to this level. They don't have formal training. So there is an opportunity here for the libraries to make an impact by evolving common systems and processes, bring them to their fold and join hands with them. Now this joining hands with the rest of the activities in the campus who are also engaged in significant information work of generating data and reports is one important challenging area. You need to look at it. There are a lot of areas like that. I won't go to much. The areas like, for example, you also need to look, when we talk about big data and analytics, particularly analytics, a lot of your activities, particularly for your either writing a paper or PhD work, is focused on citation analytics. Now you can look beyond citation analytics studies. Look at other kind of studies that are emerging, like altmetrics. Now, altmetrics is, I'm sure you must have talked about this trend by some people must have talked about, which links which provides an entirely different model for evaluating scientific research productivity output. And this gives very interesting opportunities for showing your skills that you have already acquired. The problem is the users don't know. The users in the sense the faculty or the university management do not know what all you can do. So it requires a better marketing of the library itself. There are a lot of other areas like, if I look at another trend, there's an evolving openness in higher education today. If you look at it, you spearheaded open access movement much more than the authors, publishers don't of course. But when libraries spearheaded open access, now the open content and openness in higher education is increasing. You are already aware of MOOCs. So you have a history in playing a role in open access movement. Bring that into openness in higher education. You can be part of that. Now, all these are possible when you look at becoming a kind of an embedded library. And there is also interesting talks and practice about embedding libraries into curriculum. This is one of the most important areas. How do you make library part of learning system. What role librarians can play in designing curriculum? Let us not even get into designing curriculums, which is a much more difficult task for you to make your management success. Look at it from another way. You talk about e-resource management. You provide access to e-resource management. Now, how do you make your e-resource management access relevant to the curriculum? Today, how do you provide access? You talk about discovery services. You think that you buy a discovery service solution from one of the vendors like us, your problem is over. But you need to do a lot more behind to make the discovery service completely fine-tuned for providing curriculum-specific content at the discovery level. In fact, some of the libraries are practicing very well that I have seen. Now, what they do, they provide access guides. They basically map whatever e-resources are provided access to the curriculum through a well-developed classification system. And there are available systems are also available, the tools are available like LibGuides. LibGuides is widely used. And you can connect a e-resource to the curriculum. So a person who is taking a program in 4th semester or 3rd semester on digital signal processing in an engineering college should be able to identify appropriately resources on digital signal processing. Then at the discovery level, you are connecting. And then there are examples of some of the libraries taking initiative in designing course packs. And designing curriculum-specific course packs involves interacting with several agencies within and outside, your own department heads, outside copyright clearing agencies, the publishers, your internal IT group, etc. And these are possible, people are doing, and these are the areas where universities and colleges require a lot of support. And all this is possible when what you talk, the information literacy programs are widely practiced in the library more than they are talked about. Now, information literacy programs are very powerful, but the power is known at an academic level among librarians, but very little of its knowledge and impact is available to the faculty and students. Maybe I can ask Dr. Iyer whether how much information literacy programs he would be interested in implementing in his college. Now there is a perceptional issue here. Now, do they understand information literacy programs and activities at the same wavelength as you understand? Now, these are perception issue and also somewhat management issues, and these also, I would say, pedagogical issues, because a lack of pedagogical background for librarians is a limitation. A teacher has that background and experience. Now, through information literacy program, embedding the library into the learning system is an interesting challenge. How do you do that? First, you have to sell this information literacy program itself. Now, I don't know whether how many of you are aware of it. There was an information literacy month declared by some agency long ago. I'm sure you are aware of it. The US President Obama declared it in 2009. October as the information literacy month, because today the complexity of digital world and the digital content requires an entirely new set of skills for users also. From the point of finding information, using it, managing it, creating new knowledge, and making that whatever knowledge the user himself creates available for himself. This whole chain in the digital world is a very complex process, and the IT world, for its benefits, will continue to force on us a lot of new tools and technologies. Even before we acquire the skill of using one technology, 10 more new technologies will be arriving. So this will be more complex. So in this challenge, carving information literacy as an integral part of learning systems becomes a very powerful tool. And it is in these areas what I call you require a deeper collaboration with the college faculty, college management, and this will have to be demonstrated to them. Then only there will be a much better acceptance. So I will not go too long on this. And a last point I would like to say here again is, all of you will have to look at one important factor. Higher education is becoming increasingly less and less state funded and more student funded. What we call private sector education is student funded. So student is the user and the customer. So you need to look at a factor called student success. Now, the colleges, believe me, Dr. Iyer will tell you, they always look at measuring the student success, their learning scale, what kind of jobs they will be getting from their college. They will be always concerned about the outcome, not just the output. And the colleges have, the managements have, well, a good knowledge of student success rating. Now, how to make your library part of the student success? There are good examples, of demonstrated examples in many universities where students who use libraries and information regularly, they perform much better. So the information literacy programs that I talked about will have to be taken to the students much more actively. Now, keep in mind the student success, we need to develop criteria and factors to measure student success based on the library services provided to them. Friends, I would also say here, when I'm talking about information literacy program, I also mentioned about the lack of pedagogical background as a limitation, which can easily be overcome. The biggest challenge, as I said, is the acceptance of college managements, the kind of roles the libraries can play far more effectively and contribute to student success. Now, interestingly, the Karnataka education system, Karnataka government is introducing a 2-year B.Ed program. One of the big challenges in quality of education in India today is quality of teachers. Everybody knows about it. Now, when a 2-year B.Ed program is being announced, the Library Association and the library leaders should make an impact at this point of time to introduce information literacy programs as a structured program for learning. I would say here, there is a new kind of convergence happening. The technology always brings convergence, and LIS profession will have to get into the shoes of researchers and teachers as critical support service providers. Unless you get into their shoes, it's very difficult to design and develop the kind of services they expect. And this is the level of partnership that should happen. In effect, it's almost like a librarian becoming a teacher in practice. So this is the right time, I would say, that tell the government to introduce in B.Ed program information literacy program. And within the campuses, in fact, I was telling the other day, one of my good librarian friends who actively provides a lot of programs, reaching out, outreach programs in various departments in the university. I said, look, you will be providing all the time, but how many people will be required to do it all through the year? It has to be done all through the year. Instead, you create in each department a user representative who is your e-resource champion, and use him to provide, transfer the skill sets of discovery or whatever else. So in effect, you have to bring the users into your fold, because there is not much of a difference between what they do and what libraries do. Everybody is involved all the time in information management and knowledge management. It's very difficult today to differentiate between the knowledge creator and knowledge manager. Knowledge manager will have to, every knowledge creator will have to learn the techniques of knowledge management. And technology makes it easier. So all that I am telling now is, through a deeper collaboration, the library will have to become a closer, integral part of the campus, and a kind of convergence need to happen where it should be difficult for libraries, it should be difficult for libraries to separate themselves at all from the teaching and learning system. You have to become a closely embedded part of learning and teaching system. And technology provides excellent opportunity today. All the trends that you have watched, you have heard about, and the one forthcoming, they will all be greatly helpful. So in that sense, it will be highly exciting time for all of you. And I take this opportunity to thank the organizers. I took a lot more time, sorry. And I would also like to, as I said in the beginning, we hardly have universities of high standard in the global world to represent India. I think among the top 500 universities in the world, hardly about 4 or 5 are from India. So in a short period of 4 years, we have become 21. I wish your university to become, sometime in the near future, join that 500 club, global club. Thank you. And I would like to say that the library should play an important role in this.